Welcome back. You're watching Global Eye. U.S. shooting of a Chinese spy balloon has worsened tensions between U.S. and China. President Biden has said he intends to speak to President Xi about the issue, but is not apologetic about shooting down the balloon. China, as a countermeasure, sanctioned Lockheed Martin and Raytheon missiles and defense. In the meanwhile, a bipartisan resolution has been moved in the U.S. Senate stating that Arunachal Pradesh is a part of India. This comes at a time when India and China continue to be locked in a boundary dispute. India has also this week made some key announcements to ramp up boundary infrastructure. Joining us right now is well-known foreign policy expert on China, Brahma Chellaney. Brahma Chellaney, thank you very much for joining us. How do you see this spy balloon controversy worsening relationship between the US and China? Biden making very clear he will take it up, but he doesn't want to start another Cold War.
You're right. The flight of a Chinese spy balloon across the US for 4 days before it was shot down has put into stark relief the fact that a rising China, not a declining Russia, poses the biggest threat to America. Biden is facing a lot of flack at home for having waited 4 days before ordering the downing of the Chinese spy balloon. By contrast, he was quick to order the downing of 3 unidentified aerial objects that were noticed subsequent to the Chinese reconnaissance balloon. So in this context, it's significant that Biden has announced that he intends to speak with Chinese President Xi Jinping to keep lines of communication open, and that this weekend at the Munich Security Conference, Anthony Blinken could meet with China's Wang Yi. So clearly shows that the Biden administration is seeking to ease tensions with China. In fact, in a statement, Biden says that the U.S. is not seeking conflict with China or even a new Cold War with China. And he has said in the past that his administration is not seeking to change China's political system. And see, contrast that with his position on Russia, including seeking regime change there, revitalizing the NATO alliance against Russia, fueling a new Cold War with Russia, decoupling the U.S. economically from Russia, and approving Russia's economic and political collapse. So what emerges is that Biden, despite the balloon episode, wants to maintain stable relations with China. In fact, his conciliatory approach toward China stands in stark contrast to his strategy of bleeding Russia in Ukraine by supplying Ukraine with increasingly sophisticated and longer range weapons.
I'd like to ask you about the India-China boundary tensions as well, because India and the United States have somehow been coordinating on China for a long time now. Just this week, Mr. Chellaney, there were 3 key announcements made by the Union Cabinet, all aimed at China in one sense. One, raising of 7 new ITBP battalions, the Vibrant Villages scheme for 45,000 crores for developing infrastructure in border villages, approval for the construction of the Shinkula tunnel between Himachal Pradesh and Ladakh for all-weather connectivity. What do you think about the timing, the significance of these measures?
These measures are a response to the fact that China is engaged in a frenzied buildup of military capability along the India frontier. It's been building new military infrastructure, and the military standoff of China with India continues for the past 33 months. And that standoff is a response to China's encroachments on some key border areas of Ladakh. So given the ongoing Chinese border aggression against India, India is being forced to respond by stepping up its own military infrastructure.
Right. Those are important words from you, Mr. Chellaney. But now coming to the point of China and United States once again. China has gone in for countermeasures. How do you think China is going to react further in the days to come, especially to the downing of the spy balloon?
See, China engages in activities that are hostile or provocative, and then tries to present itself as the victim. This has always been the case with China. It commits aggression against India and then paints India as the aggressor. So similarly, in the reconnaissance balloon episode, the fact that this balloon went thousands of kilometers beyond its stated course as claimed by China, yet China was not apologetic about the fact that this balloon went over continental US for 4 days and tried to paint the US as having acted unlawfully by shooting down that reconnaissance balloon. But this is all showmanship. The fact is that whatever countermeasures China has taken or intends to take are just symbolic in nature, because clearly China was in the wrong. It was spying on American sensitive facilities, and the Americans downed that balloon, but it took them 4 days to down it.
Right. My final question, Mr. Chellaney, and this is about the resolution that has been moved with bipartisan consensus in the U.S. Senate, stating that Arunachal Pradesh is a part of China. How do you see the support within U.S. politics when it comes to India's stand on the boundary dispute or India's stand vis-a-vis China?
The fact that where India faces a hostile Western press, the Western press has become increasingly hostile to the Modi government. And there is an ongoing campaign to paint Prime Minister Modi as an autocrat or a would-be autocrat. This is a very unfair narrative. India remains a robust democracy. So given the hostility that India faces in certain Western quarters, this resolution moved by Senators Jeff Merkley and Senator Bill Hagerty, stating that Arunachal Pradesh is clearly a part of India, that India was within its right to do what it has done, that the United States recognizes the Mahan line as the international boundary between China and the state of Arunachal Pradesh. All that is really good for India, because it shows that in the most powerful legislative house of the United States, that senators are willing to stand with India. This resolution is co-sponsored by a very powerful Senator John Cornyn of Texas, and it's likely to be passed given the bipartisan support that it enjoys.
Right. But thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Chellaney, putting into context the current tensions between India and China, and also US and China, and how India and US would be coordinating in the days to come. Thanks once again for being with us. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Global Eye. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.